How's it going, everybody? This is Alex Caceres, and you're listening to Story of the Fight.
What up, what up?
Good morning, my friend.
How's it going, Toasty?
It's chugging along. I got home at like 3 a.m. yesterday, so I had to spend the rest of the night watching fights.
There you go. I mean, they started 9:30 a.m. for us, didn't they?
Yeah, but I had to rewatch them because I was watching them in the car, so I couldn't really focus the whole way up there.
Watch them in the car. Yeah, no worries. All right, so what's up, everybody? This is another week of Story of the Fight. I am Will. We have Andrew Tosty filling in for Ramiro over there. First things first, please, like, subscribe, do all that kind of stuff. We're super close to 66.5K subscribers. So if we get to, let's just get to 7K soon, that'd be cool. Appreciate everybody who tunes in. Shout out Monster Tony, already here. What is up, boys? What's up, Monster Tony? And again, if you don't like looking at us and you just want to listen, we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere podcasts are. Just go to storyofthefight.com. It'll list all the links. Follow us on social medias, Reddit, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Follow Andrew. Andrew, what are you on Instagram?
Toasty MMA.
Toasty MMA. He makes it easy. It's a solid nickname. Super easy. But yeah, we can get right into it. Real quick too, if you haven't gotten any merch is in the description. Also on storyofthefight.com. Get some shirts, some hoodies, all that jazz.
I came in merchless today.
Came in merchless. That's all right. You came in with the belts too, though, so it's all good. That's a cool case, though.
Yeah, I know.
Alrighty. So we had UFC Paris 2 or something like that. We're just going to call it Fight Night France because the UFC doesn't give titles anymore unless it's a pay-per-view. It makes it difficult to track. But we had Ciryl Gane versus Serghei Spivac for the main event. Ciryl Gane coming off of, big loss against John Jones. So he's 0-2 in title fights. He's still like ranked number 2 or something like that. So he's trying to get back into contention. He lost to Francis Ngannou, then he lost to John Jones in his title shots. So this is him coming back. Serghei Spivac's been on a little bit of a roll. What did you think going into this fight? Who did you pick going into this fight?
I always pick against Serghei. Serghei, regardless of whether or not he wins or loses, he is one of the most boring. Like he produces some of the most boring fights I've ever seen. Like I don't understand how they all end differently, but yet somehow they're equally as like non-entertaining.
You weren't entertained by him beating the shit out of Greg Hardy?
No, well, I was entertained by the result.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
look, I don't want to shit on him too much, but it seems like every single time he fights like real tough competition, that's where he gets set back. I know he had the win against who was it?
Lewis.
Derek Lewis, yeah. But even that, it's like Derek Lewis. He's not like, look, he's an entertaining fighter, and I'll tune in for his fights. He hits hard as fuck, but that's kind of it, you know?
Yeah.
So like a win over him doesn't necessarily mean too much.
Especially the way he won. It's not like he went out there and like stuck in the phone booth and traded the whole time and ended up connecting or something like that. It was the way you would expect to win a Derek Lewis fight. You take him down, you show him that jiu-jitsu is real, and then you choke him out. Like,
and speaking of, that's why I think a lot of people picked him for this fight, because Ciryl Gane has struggled with grappling with Francis Ngannou and with John Jones, his two big losses. So I think a lot of people were like, Ciryl Gane can't wrestle. But I think it's not as like black and white as that, because for me the Francis the Francis fight, people are like, yeah, he got out grappled by Francis. That's not a good look, right? Because Francis isn't necessarily known as a good wrestler.
Francis Ngannou with no knees.
Francis Ngannou with no knees. That being said, I think it's still more nuanced, because I don't think game plan wise Ciryl Gane was expecting that at all, right? So caught off guard mid fight. There's a little bit of a caveat there. It's not necessarily, I don't think, a true representation of his grappling. And then people were like, well, John Jones, took him down real easy and choked him out in 10 seconds or something like that. But that's also John Jones.
Yeah, he took down DC with ease too. Are we really going to compare apples to oranges?
Exactly. So it's yeah, he technically has struggled with grappling in the past, but it's not, like I said, it's not that black and white. So going into this, I thought, Serghei has some decent grappling, but he's not John Jones. And I guarantee Cyril's game plan is to counter wrestle basically and sprawl and brawl, that type of game plan. He's expecting grappling from Serghei is what I mean. And yeah, that's kind of what happened, right? He kind of stuffed his takedowns, beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, and you consider the fight that he had in between the two losses, which was tied to Avasa. He's not expecting to grapple at all that entire fight. Yeah. And I mean, I bet you could have bet your house that there was not going to be any shots taken in that fight.
Yeah.
So you got to consider he's had 3 fights to basically just focus on making sure he doesn't get taken down. You may not be able to develop D1 wrestling skills, but you can learn to defend a few takedowns. And Serghei doesn't have a diversity in his wrestling game. It's stand up body lock trip, or it's shoot him blind for the ugliest single or double leg, hope you grab a leg and then muscle it down. That's sort of what heavyweights do if they don't really they know how to wrestle. DC will do a bunch of different things, trip, inside tie, inside hook, a bunch of different things. John Jones does it too, but Stipe a little bit too. But everybody else is grab a leg, muscle him down, grab his leg, muscle him down.
Yeah, the skill level for grappling at heavyweight is not what I would call the best,
Yeah.
And then you some of the people say, oh, one of the best heavyweight wrestlers in the roster right now is Curtis Blades. But even Curtis Blades doesn't really set up his shots. He kind of shoots from way far out, and that's how he gets dropped because of it. He reaches for his takedowns. And you saw that a lot with Serghei. Like you said, he likes to clinch and get a trip, and he's almost reaching for these. He's not setting it up. He's just reaching for it, and it allowed Ciryl Gane to kind of big brother him in the grappling exchanges in this fight. He kind of big brothered him the whole fight, really. When Ciryl Gane, go ahead.
He also with the stand up, he was so much longer than him, and Serghei doesn't fight at length at all. He's shelled up the whole time. So he was both big brothering him when they were doing grappling, and then as soon as they got stood up, Ciryl was just pop pop move, pop pop move, pop pop move, and Serghei couldn't even get close enough to even touch him.
Yeah, it was a good style-wise, a really good showcase fight for Cyril to kind of, because a lot of people were oh, Cyril's overrated. He's got 0 ground game. He shouldn't even be at the top. After he lost that John Jones fight, people lost all hope in Ciryl Gane, and it was but it's John Jones. It's not I don't know. I didn't put too much stock in that loss. If I'm being honest, he got caught in a weird spot where he was a little careless, leaving his neck up when he was trying to get up. And John's the type of guy to snatch that, you can't leave openings against John Jones, and it happened. But so this was a good reminder of hey, Ciryl Gane's still really good. It's just he fought Francis Ngannou and John Jones. They're both pretty good fighters,
Yeah. And he didn't fight Derek Lewis with abs, so.
Yeah, exactly. HLB Comer says, where's my beautiful boy Ramiro? I need my sweet chocolate fix. Who are these two nerds?
he's outselling trading cards.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Mazzatoni says the bodywork was clean, and yeah, that's the other thing. Like you said with Serghei Spivac, there's a lot of times when they were at distance where he would just immediately just shell up, high shell, and Ciryl Gane's just patient, and he just bam straight to the body, and he never really dropped his hands ever. So Ciryl Gane just kept ripping him to the body. Up against the fence, he'd rip him to the body. I mean, they didn't really say it until after the fight, but did you see that massive welt on Spivac's side? I was like, dude, did he dislodge a rib? What the hell is going on here?
Also, anytime you're fighting one of these big white Russians, it's always super apparent where you're hitting them because they immediately turn a different color. They look like a can of tomato soup.
That's me, dude. I'm so pale that any scuff or anything like that, it gets super red on me, and it's like I saw that even just with his back against the fence, and then they separated like early in the fight, and you could see like the whole fence imprint on his back, and I was like, man,
Yep.
some people really wear damage despite if it's actually damage, right? HB Comer says apparently he broke a rib. Yeah, that's what it looked like.
Yeah.
And he kept eating body shots with that broken rib. That's so brutal. And Cyril does this thing where when he has you hurt, and it almost cost him. There was a couple times there was one time where Spivac had his back against the cage. It was close to the end of the fight. And Cyril really has like a disregard in those moments where he'll stand there in front of you and just start beating you with like one hand and like
Yeah.
chin way up. And Spivac counted once and almost cracked him, but
He also does when he's doing that, he does these weird like stand up hammer fist things. It's
people
very
hate him for it.
Interesting. I mean,
People are like, he targets the back of the head, and it's like I didn't see one shot at the back of the head this fight. It was all like right on the ear. HB Comer says like a mad father. It seriously seems like he should have a belt in his hand or something, like the way he throws those punches.
yeah, that's going to be a meme somewhere soon.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, HB Comer, get on it. Get the Photoshop skills out. Put a belt in Ciryl Gane's hand as he raises it.
Adobe Express for the win.
Yeah. But I mean, it was pretty one-sided. I think the official stats were like 109 strikes to 11 was the official stats on this fight.
Sounds about right.
Pretty bad. And now we're kind of in a weird spot matchmaking wise at heavyweight because we have Stipe versus Jones, and they've both kind of flirted with the idea that that's going to be both of their last fights. You have Serghei Pavlovich, who is the backup fighter for that fight. You have Ciryl Gane back in the win column. He's ranked number 2, and he just got a win. So it's like, okay, if he fights up, who's he fighting? Is it Pavlovich? Well, Pavlovich the backup. And then you have Tom Aspinall, who's back, who just looks super impressive, like he never left. And so it's like we almost have 3 guys waiting for title shots and just waiting for these old dudes to retire. I don't know how they're going to handle it.
I think the whole retirement thing for at least John Jones is just sort of like a play to drum up like eyeballs and type of stuff. I think it's not like he's scared that people aren't going to buy the fight, but I think like he just wants in his mind the guarantee that he has like a backup plan, sort of like how we used to do with partying, where like, if I party and I lose, then I have a backup plan to like give me an excuse.
I didn't really train. I was just doing blow.
Yeah, I think Stipe is a little bit more realistic. I think he just has he has like firefighting and all this other stuff going on. He has the gym to run. I think John is far
by the time they fight.
Yeah, John is far less likely to retire. Now, if you're gonna match up Ciryl with anybody within like the top 10, I think like the best fight would be him and Curtis. Give Curtis another opportunity to jump himself into the title picture, because I mean he needs something and he hasn't fought in a long time. Ciryl needs to show that he can grapple with anybody in the top before. Like, if you give him against Serghei, he's going to either knock him out or take him down and just smother him. You give him John again, it's going to be the same thing. In a magic world, if Francis came back, it would be the same thing. So I think the best idea would be throw him with Curtis, give Curtis an opportunity, give Ciryl an opportunity, give the UFC some time to book the 2 matchups that you were talking about, and then just see what happens when it all unfolds.
Yeah, HB Comer says, who really wants to see that Bones fight with Stipe? Not me. I'll watch it, obviously, just because it's like it is 2 greats, but I'm
not clamoring for it.
Like, John took so much time bulking up to go to heavyweight, and like if back then if he fought Stipe, I'd be all over it. But now it's just like, it's like, what are we doing? And Monster Tony says Pavlovich versus Aspinall for the title after Jones and Stipe retire. I think that's the move, Pavlovich versus Aspinall. I don't know if I do Ciryl Gane versus Curtis Blades, just because Curtis Blades he's coming off a loss, right? He lost to Pavlovich, so it's like, should he fight up? I don't know if he should necessarily fight up. He might have to fight someone. And isn't he booked actually against Jailton Almeida? I think he's booked against Almeida. Did they make that?
I don't know, but I mean, I understand the idea of like making him fight up again or like fight down again, but Curtis had been sitting there for so long, waiting and waiting and waiting. I mean, if you're not going to throw him the bone and give him the title shot, at least throw him the bone and give him the opportunity to stay in the picture. You know what I mean?
Instead, the UFC was like, we're throwing Jailton Almeida the bone because they are fighting in November. That's a banger, dude.
But
I like Almeida's. Almeida's very promising at heavyweight. Another good
he
grappler.
he's somebody who actually does a diversity of grappling, like more than just grabbing your leg and forcing you to the floor.
But you do know exactly how he's going to shoot at the beginning of the fight. Every single fight, he opens up with a front kick to the body, and then as soon as you step forward after that front kick, he shoots a spear takedown to get across the cage. HB Comer says, Tosi, part of the screen looks like a cutscene from Command and Conquer. Wow, that's a good reference. That's a solid reference. Command and Conquer was sick. Okay, we can move on.
Wait, we're the nerds?
Yeah. Wait, we're the nerds? Oh, that's hilarious. Let's see. We got co-main event. We had Manon Fiorot versus Thug Rose Namajunas.
Man, feel bad for Rose.
So people hate on Rose a lot because of two things. One is the Carla Esparza fight. It's pretty bad. She didn't really take ownership at the time of how bad it was. And then her affiliation and relationship with Pat Barry.
Yeah.
People throw her across the coals because of those two things. And it sucks because I really thought, like, I was like, just wait. If she does win this fight, I had actually picked Manon Fiorot, but if Rose won this fight, everybody would be back on the train. Everybody would be talking about how cool because before she lost to Carla, Rose had a very big fan base, and everybody ditched her as soon as that fight happened. And it's like, hey, man, it's one fight. It's one fight. You know, this is the same girl that beat Joanna twice, knocked out Zhang Wei Li, beat her again, came back. Yeah, come on.
She looked Boogie Woman in the eyes and didn't move an inch.
Yeah,
and we all fell in love with like how like she used her emotions to like stay focused, blah 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 blah. And now her emotions are getting the better of her. Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, I don't like this. She's too emotional, blah 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 blah. Like, okay.
Like, hey, you liked it when she was winning. Yeah.
Yeah.
MMA fans are fickle, man.
Casual MMA fans are fickle.
Yeah, HB Comer says Rose too small. Who the hell thought it was a good idea to go up in weight? Yeah. The way I see this is I was like, okay, I think she is going to be too small. She wasn't even necessarily a big straw weight. I think she's even fought at atom weight in her career before she was in the UFC before. But I was like, okay, I kind of thought of it as the Tatiana Suarez fight when she came back and she fought at flyweight, and she didn't look super impressive in it. She struggled with takedowns, things like that. And then I was like, man, this is the wrong weight class for her. She needs to go back down to strawweight. And or was it strawweight or no? Am I thinking bantamweight and flyweight?
Yeah, bantam and fly. Because Tatiana's huge. If she can make 115, then I don't know what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah. So regardless of the weight class, she came back. When she came back, she fought a weight class above, and that was against was it? Which one was that? No, I was right. It was a flyweight, and she's back at strawweight. So she comes back at flyweight. She didn't look all that impressive, but it was also a long layoff and a weight class above. Then she comes back at strawweight, and she's the world beater again. And I was like, man. So I was kind of thinking the same thing. As long as Rose, because she took a lot of time off, she looks decent in this fight. I'm not going to put too much stock in the result because I think it's too big for her, and she's been a long time away.
Also, the first punch that you throw, you break your hand. Like, that's a lot to get over.
Yeah, and I was like, how much is that going to impact it? She did keep throwing the right eventually. Her best work was clearly in round one. That was the closest round. After that, so like Tosi alluded to, she breaks her pinky on her right hand. So she ends up fighting most of the fight in her non-standards or non-dominant stance. And Manon Fiorot just kept peppering her. She's so good with her straight punches, Manon Fiorot. And then anytime Thug Rose would try to get in, she's hitting her with that right hook, just punishing her for getting in. It's like, man, what do you do? I thought, and who am I? I'm an idiot, but I thought, hey, your hand's broken, and pretty bad it seems like. And every time you get in close, she hits you with the check hook. Maybe the game plan should be kicking. And after that first round, Pat Barry literally says, the kicks are doing good, but you don't need them yet. It's like, hey, man, her hand is broken, and she's getting punished every time she gets in punching range. Like, Trevor Whitman wasn't there. I don't know what the whole deal with that is. I don't know if he just didn't want to fly to France or if they're no longer training together. Do you know?
No idea, but I would imagine that would have been something that was like talked about. It probably has a lot to do with like just travel.
Yeah, I would hope so because obviously nobody should be leaving Trevor Whitman. And now it sounds like
Yeah,
Usman's leaving Trevor Whitman. I don't know what's going on, um, but yes, Manon Fiorot look at this picture. Look how much bigger she looks in just this picture. Um,
massive
yeah,
compared.
and so I hope I haven't seen what Rose has said after the fight if she has it all, but I hope this after this fight she kind of felt the strength because she got in on some takedowns that were the entries were very good and she couldn't finish them.
Hmm.
And Manon Fiorot is not known for like her grappling strengths. You know, she's a very good
Yeah,
striker. So maybe she felt something and she's like, maybe I should go back down to straw weight. Especially, now we got Zhang Wei Li there. And she has 2 wins over her. It's like that seems almost like a no-brainer. Um,
yeah, a little bit. Well, it would have been a no-brainer if she hadn't taken this fight. Like you could almost have booked that immediately. Now you kind of
I
have to
know,
give Rose
right?
another fight to win.
Yeah, yeah. And or maybe she also saw Tatiana Suarez coming, and she's like, "Look,
Ah,
I struggle with wrestlers and pressure wrestlers, and I can do much better at flyweight against Alexa Grasso or Shevchenko maybe." Um, HLB Comer says maybe because he's a freaking weirdo. Yeah, Pat Barry is very strange, and it sucks because growing up I was a big Pat Barry fan back in the day. He was
hmm
one of my favorite
that
fighters.
fight with Czech Congo, it's
Whew.
crazy, insane.
Yeah, it was nuts. One of the best fights of all time. One of the best like firefights.
Yeah,
But halfway through this fight, there was also a headbutt, a clash of heads that split her open and immediately blooded her up. And I think we have
crazy
pictures.
amount of blood.
We have pictures of. Here's the injury warning. Uh, here's the injury warning. But we'll get the headbutt blood shot, and then we'll also see Thug Rose's finger after the fight. If Rich wants to show those pictures. So that's from the clash of heads. Didn't really seem to affect her too bad at all, really. She seems fine immediately. Um, but yeah, she blooded up. And then and then here's the finger.
Oh God,
Yeah.
so gross.
I can't imagine being in a fist fight with that going on.
Yeah,
But
and a lot of focus is going to be on Thug Rose's hand, and rightfully so. But it was very impressive that she got hit. The Moran got hit with that head. She wasn't the only one that got hit, but that split happened on her head, and that was
Mhm.
a gruesome gash, a lot of blood, and
Yeah,
she
immediately.
essentially like just brushed it off and like moved forward the whole time. Like didn't let
Dude,
her focus stay on it.
it
It was
didn't
pretty impressive.
it literally she barely even acknowledged it.
Yeah,
Like and dude, some HB Comer says disgusting. I put that in there specifically for you, HB Comer. Uh, but everybody's had those weird clash of the heads just in grappling, right? It happened on they were both almost entering. Um, and even the small ones like kind of daze you for a sec and they hurt. It's like a sharp pain, like it's a it hurts. And for it to split you open like that, that's a bad one. And yeah, she didn't even acknowledge it. I think she just went like that, and then that was it. And
yeah.
her whole side of her face was completely bloody for the rest of the fight. Uh, Tony says Tatiana would maul Rose. Agreed. That's a terrible matchup for her. So yeah, she's in a weird position where if she wants to fight at the top at strawweight, eventually she's going to get matched up with Tatiana. I don't think that goes well. And
Yeah.
now we've pretty much confirmed that she is too small for this weight class. I think maybe against someone like Alexa Grasso, size wise, she might be okay. But some of these bigger flyweights like Manon Fiorot, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah, if Andrade slammed and spiked Rose so hard she knocked her out, I can only imagine what Tatiana would do to her.
I know. Yeah. HLB Comer says, back to salads, Rose, you go. Yeah, I don't know what's next for her. I don't know what she's going to do. But
get surgery on her hand.
Yeah, that's probably immediate, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe it's just a nice pull and a splint. We'll see what happens. But yeah, we can move on. What was the feature bout? We had, my boy, Benoit Saint-Denis versus Thiago Moises. Benoit Saint-Denis is a pure action fighter. There's some guys that are action fighters. We lost one with Korean Zombie. Every once in a while, they come around. Justin Gaethje's one, where no matter who they fight, it's going to be a banger. And we've now confirmed that Benoit Saint-Denis is an action fighter. Blunderbub says the girlfriend loved the blood, good cuts. Yep. Shout out to Blunderbub. Shout out to his girl in the one chat. Anytime someone gets bloodied, she jumps in the chat immediately and is all about it. I'm pretty sure the Just Bleed, maybe they're related to the Just Bleed guy. HLB Comer says, we knew this was going to be a dogfight, and a dogfight it was. Yeah, Benoit Saint-Denis makes his UFC debut 2 years ago, and he fights up a weight class on short notice and gets the absolute shit beat out of him. But the entire time, it was a slugfest. He wasn't really doing much damage on his side, and everyone's like, man, this guy's kind of just like a human punching bag, tough as nails, but maybe not UFC level. And since then, he's had 4 fights, and he's finished all 4 of them. So maybe it was just short notice and at welterweight where he doesn't belong, because that was his only loss. He's now 12-1 after this fight. And Thiago Moises, he's struggled a bit lately, but he's a very good benchmark, in my opinion. If you could get past, only really good guys get past Thiago Moises. If you look at his losses, he's now 17-7, but we got Ismagulov, we got Islam Makhachev, Joel Alvarez. Like, he's very good, and he only loses to these guys who are clearly in that next kind of echelon. But I was a little worried for Benoit Saint-Denis because he hadn't really beaten like a name yet,
Yeah.
This is the biggest test by far. A lot of people thought the Bonfim fight. We also don't really know how good Bonfim is. He looks very good, but we don't really know because he hasn't really fought enough. But textbook Benoit Saint-Denis, he comes in, he just starts blasting that left kick like he did against Bonfim. He's a sniper with that thing. He's so good with that body kick. And then he just walked him down. Just kind of disregarded everything Moises had.
I think the 2 things that like really affected this fight a lot were the fact that they were in France. Like, I think that crowd got in Moises' head where he just I think he felt like a villain because like as soon as he got in there, he was throwing every single punch with like the intent of I'm gonna absolutely murder him. And every time he was whiffing so hard, his hand ended up in a different time zone.
Yeah. And dude, in the crowd, they're all chanting like, "Oh my god!" It was insane.
Between all the nut shots, he was just sitting there like this crowd is just in my head the whole time, and they were so loud. And then the other thing is like you were saying, like every single time he was hitting the body, he was hitting it so flush, it was insane. We were talking about earlier how like some fighters like show markings, and like his body was pretty beat the fuck up throughout that fight.
Yeah, and like Blunderup says, Saint-Denis was just daring Moises to hit him on the chin a few times, and Moises did. There was a couple times. There's those fights where you're getting walked down, and it's like, dude, you need to land something big to just get the respect so they don't keep walking you down. And he landed those shots. But Benoit Saint-Denis,
but he didn't get the respect.
Yeah, the respect, it didn't matter. He's like, dude, I got beat up by a welterweight. There's nothing you can do that's gonna hurt me, basically. And HB Comer says the left hand was dropping, though it got wild at times. And that's the one caveat in this fight that is like, look, like you said, HB Comer, if you beat Moises, you're in the top 15. You can hang in the top 15. But that defense needs to get checked up a little bit, because once you start breaking in that top 15, top 10 at lightweight, they're all killers. It's a bunch of murderers. And there's some things in here where, I mean, maybe it was the crowd hyping him up, but we've seen it in the past now. It's a little bit of a trend with Benoit Saint-Denis where he starts trading with you and he just doesn't care what's coming back. And eventually that catches up. Like, you can't just keep doing that. So I'm a little worried about that.
Those misses. You can't expect all those misses to be misses all the time. Like, exactly. At some point, you're going to go against somebody like a Sean O'Malley or a Stephen Thompson, where like those swings are not misses anymore. They're connections.
They're connections. And look, some people have really good shins, things like that. Also, what a savage, dude. The guy's a pure gladiator. You know what I mean? But it's not like you choose to get knocked out. You know, like when you're walking into the fire like that and you're trading and you have to disregard for what's coming back at you and you're getting hit and you're like, yeah, I'm fine. I get hit like this all the time. Eventually you don't, and you have no control over that. So I would like a little bit more striking defense from him. Ultimately, it didn't matter in this fight, but career-wise, it will. But for now, I mean, goddamn, dude, this guy, match him up with another guy, get him on a pay-per-view. This dude is fucking fun to watch. He's so fun to
Very
watch.
fun. Fireworks every time.
Fireworks. And I won a flare bet on this one on Reddit. So shout out MMA fan 100. There's this guy on Reddit that every single general thread, he's like commenting about, do you think so and so would beat pre-IV ban RDA? Like, he always talking about pre-IV ban RDA, about like this mythical fighter, how like he was the best in the world, the only person on the planet who could beat pre-IV ban RDA was Habib. All this, he's constantly talking about him, and he picked Moises, and it was like, because he was like, yeah, Benoit Santini's going to get fraud checked. Like, his win over Bonfim was a fluke, all this stuff. And I was like, all right, cool, I'll take that bet. If Benoit wins, then your flair's got to be pre-IV ban RDA, pound for pound most overrated. And shout out Benoit Santini. So that's going to be good to see. HB Comer says, and the crowd, Paris audience delivered. Dude, there's something about these European crowds that they do the chants, like the soccer chants.
Yeah,
and
the whole time I was thinking,
dude,
it's like, this is like a soccer event.
Yeah, and it's so cool, dude. It's so cool. Even they took a break for a nut shot early in the fight, and the crowd's chanting like crazy. And it's like, man,
like, if you're not jumping, you're not French. That was awesome.
Yeah, and like, why is that such a European thing and not like, why can't American crowds do that?
Because we're so diversified that like we can't get behind a singular fighter. Like,
yeah, maybe.
Like when it's like a full American side versus like a full, let's say like Brazilian side or something like that, you'll always have like a mixed crowd in America that like want both of them to win. Whereas everybody in that entire stadium, regardless of who they actually liked, were like, oh, well, he's French. We're cheering for him today.
Yeah, and the best we can do is the USA chant, and it fucking sucks.
So garbage.
So lame. It's so lame.
We got nothing.
All right, we can move on. Let's see. We had Volkan No Time Ozdemir versus Bogdan Gushkov. Let's see if I
changed his nickname to Tree Trunk Legs. That man has the biggest goddamn legs I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yeah,
he
dude.
kicked him like once, and I was like, oh my God, how is he standing?
Dude's bursting through his shorts, man. Blunderbub says we're too busy booing the wrestling. Yeah, isn't that a bummer? Every time we hit the ground, everyone starts.
That was another thing with the crowd, is like there was a lot of cage wrestling, and every single time they were like a tiny knee got hit, and the crowd was like, oh,
yeah.
The whole time they were chanting.
It reminded me of the Lumpini events, where every single strike, no matter how big it is, the whole crowd reacts to it. But yeah, so Volkan Ozdemir versus Gushkov. Gushkov kicked this on short notice. So he steps in, makes his debut on short notice. I did a little bit of research on him from what I could find. Dude hits like a truck, and he's very good with like long shots. But that being said, Ozdemir has been in this game, and this is not his debut, and he's had big fights, and I think it really showed. And he hits like a truck. I mean, people forget because he's had some big losses in his career, but his run up to the Daniel Cormier fight, I mean, the guy was just blasting people. It was like, this guy is fun. Like, this is what the light heavyweight division needs, and he kind of got away from that a little bit, but it showed in this fight. That left hook, man. That left hook. Once he found the timing, because Gushkov was doing a decent job with his jab and his straight, things like that. I like the grappling from Ozdemir. But once he caught him with that left hook, and then he doubled up on it, he lands the left hook. Gushkov gets a little wobbled, steps back, goes in again, and then Ozdemir just counters that one with another left hook, puts him down, and then just like butter goes right into full mount, hits him a couple times. Gushkov turns over to try to get back up, gives up the neck. Ozdemir gets on the neck, chokes him out. Very good win for Ozdemir, because he's been struggling, man.
Yeah, very needed. Very needed.
He's been alternating back and forth, like he had that run against OSP, Serkinov, Manua, and then he loses to to Cormier, loses to Anthony Smith, loses to Reyes, gets 2 wins, loses to Prohashka, loses to Ankalaev, beats Paul Craig, loses to Krylov, and now he's back in the win column. Like he's just been flip flopping, and he hasn't had the consistency. But he needed this for sure.
Yeah, and it became very
like
apparent to me when I was watching like the very beginning. I was like Uzdemir's opponent, like he was doing this weird thing where he would like dip his head way far in past his hips, and I'm like, that doesn't look like that's going to end well for him. And then like a round later, it's exactly what ends up catching him. So Uzdemir did a really good job at like noticing some holes there and immediately capitalizing, because I don't think, like you said, there was a lot of video on this guy out there.
Yeah, and I mean that comes with just that experience and being in there with guys like Prohaska and Cormier and Ankalaev, like all those guys who are very well. Prohaska's, I wouldn't say very refined, but he knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing, not what to do, but what he is doing.
Exactly. Blunderbove says Gushkov looks like the scary guy. Ozdemir is the scary guy. I like that because Gushkov looks like the generic villain in like some like movie where they go to like Eastern Europe. He looks like the generic guy who's like gonna give you some grief on the subway or something.
Yeah, and
Monster
they're both
Tony
the
says
bald.
Gushkov looks like Anthony Smith's brother.
They're both the bald Russian guy, but like one of them is the actual character, the other one is the cosplaying the character.
Yeah, and shout out to Ozdemir because he went to Turkey and got those the hair transplants that everybody's getting over there. And then
it didn't work.
He had him for one fight, man, and then he's back to clean shaven. I don't know how well that works if you're grappling constantly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows? But we can move on. Let's
Pretty
see.
straightforward fight.
Yeah, I'm sorry that I made you go back and watch this fight. But we're gonna have to talk about it, so I had to tell you to watch it. I probably should have just told you watch the third round. But we had William Gomis versus Yanis Gamori. Or every event needs like a clown show. It seems like every event has that one thing that's like, what are we doing? And this was that fight because it was awful. It was not a good fight. And I mean that with no disrespect to Gomis and Gamori. They just both seemed like they didn't really want to commit to much. And they both seemed like they were just kind of flicking things out here and there. I thought the front kick should have been a weapon for Gomis because Gamori was just leaning forward over his chest, like really weird the whole time. And he never once did the front kick. But was it the third round? Third round, Gomis kicks him, throws a body kick, a liver shot. I believe they were open stance, southpaw orthodox. Or no. Yeah, I think they were. Throws the body kick to the liver. Gamori puts his hands on his hips and goes, "Oh, that was a low blow." And he turns away from him, puts his hands on his hips, and he's in pain. And the ref's like, no, keep going, keep going. Gomis is like, I don't know what to do because he's not facing me. And it looks like he got hit in the nuts. And Gamori's not paying attention. And the ref's like, all right, fine. If you're not going to keep going, fight's over then. This is a TKO. And Gamori's like, wait, what? Yeah. I got kicked in the nuts, dude.
There's a lot of learning that happens here, and none of it has to do with fighting. Like all of it has to do with like the French refs realizing, oh, we can fuck up. We're not perfect. And then like you were saying, the other guy realizing, hey, if I just go forward some of these times, I might get some clown ass victory. And then other guy really everyone should learn also. Like we say this all the time. Fight until the ref tells you to stop, regardless of if you got hit in the nuts. Like, put your hand there and be like, oh, I got hit in the nuts, but don't turn away and like call your own timeout. That's how you lose.
Yeah, that's definitely a bad look. I don't know why. I don't know. Every commission is different. But some commissions have like the replay feature and things like that. For a while, they're like, if we go to replay, then it means the fight's over, which is stupid. But I don't know if France does it, but in a perfect world, and obviously it's a lot easier to say this when you're sitting on the couch watching, and instead of being the ref in a fight with a crowd going crazy. I love this picture right here, but it's so funny to me. The ref probably should have stopped the fight, but instead of calling it off, said, "Hey, can we get a replay?" And in his mind said he wasn't obeying my commands. This is either going to be a TKO for him refusing to fight, or we can give him some time for a nut shot. Let's check the replay. Should have been one of the two. I don't think he should have called the fight.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I don't know what it is lately with Rogan and now Bisping. They constantly want to check and decide whether or not a low blow was actually a low blow. And it doesn't make any sense to me because in the replay, you can clearly see it does land on the hip more, like across from his cup. But it comes back and it clearly moves his cup like to the front hip. And I don't know if Bisping should have known better, but look, if you're wearing a cup, it doesn't mean it needs to be an impact, like a direct impact. But sometimes these grazing things, these glancing things shift the cup, and that could be almost more painful than a direct impact. Monster Tony says it totally hits the cup first too. Yeah, and Bisping was like adamant that this wasn't a low blow. And it's like, hey man, like you don't know. And it clearly moved.
I very much like that Paul like went at him immediately. He was like, I think you're wrong. Just like, no, like I think you're wrong.
Felder takes a no, like he doesn't give a fuck, dude. He
especially with Bisping. He's like, nah.
He's like, let me put you in your place real quick. And maybe it's because Bisping's only got one eye, but
I was about to say the same thing. Like, I don't listen to you. You can only see 50% of what I can see.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I felt bad for him because it was clearly a low blow. But you're right. You need this. You can't react like that. I also
no matter what.
Think also two things can be true. Was it as bad as his reaction was making it seem like? Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe it was a little bit of an overreaction, maybe to get a timeout. But yeah. you have to pay attention, things like that. But to get a low kick TKO. And then to just the smile on that dude's face while he was getting his hand raised is so funny to me, man. Just because, like,
and wasn't this a French on French fight too?
It was, yeah.
It's like of all the fights, the crowd's like, actually, yeah, we are gonna boo this one. This is some bullshit.
Yeah, what's funny too is Bisping in the commentary for this fight, they were like commentating about how like little the crowd was like reacting to anything in the fight because the fight sucked. But they're literally like, yeah, maybe because it's French on French, they're like, oh, perfect time to go to the bathroom, get a drink. And it's like, hey man,
that's not your job.
Saying
this is the opposite of your job, sir.
We don't have coffee break fights. What are we doing? But yeah, hilarious fight. One of the funniest
absolutely hilarious.
In a while.
Everyone learned, nobody won.
Yeah, exactly. So we can move on.
We can move on. They can't move on.
Yeah. The main card opener, we had Morgan Charrier versus Manolo Zucchini.
Thank you for saying the names because I would have done a much worse job.
I'm sure I didn't do great. Blunderbob says they actually called it a bathroom break match. Yeah, I cannot believe they said that on the broadcast. Mid-fight, we're like one round in. They're like, yeah, this is the time to go to the bathroom, guys. Not the 10
commentators were. The commentators got fined $10,000 for that one.
Yeah. HB Comer says we all know the fight. So when you go to the bathroom. Oh man. That was funny. I mean, there's two of them on this card that we're not even going to talk about, so you might be right. But so yeah, this fight, this was a decent fight. These guys were going after each other. Zucchini is ultra aggressive. And maybe just needs to refine some things a little bit. He kept throwing this high kick that looked very labored. But I like that at least he was showing it. And Charrier, I'm just going to call him Morgan because I'm sure I'm butchering that last name. But Morgan just looked very composed and almost in this state where it was like the same thing where like he almost had no respect for him, where he was just kind of leaning out of shots, things like that. It was a decent fight. The finish was pretty badass, just because I love body shot finishes, real body shot.
I think
finishes.
his main issue was like he was kind of throwing stuff just to throw stuff, like he wasn't throwing it to like set anything up or connect. And
you're talking about Zucchini?
Yeah, and he was almost responding to literally every feint that Morgan was throwing. Like he would give every little twitch, and he was like switching stances and almost running away every single time. And that was a very good read on Morgan's part. Like he would move away and take a full back step, and man, he caught him at the end of that kick right on the organ.
Yeah, and like that's something that maybe it's just like a Greg Jackson thing where there's a lot of like they developed this game when GSP started training there. They really developed this game of like expert point fighting, and what busy work, like you said, busy work, volume, things like that, optics, and it seemed like Zucchini had a lot of that going, but that is great if you make it to decision,
Yeah. Or if you use it to
it's
set
not gonna
something
get
up.
you a finish. Yeah, exactly. And Monster Tony says, "Who doesn't love a stock kick to the body?" Dude, this appeased the Just Bleed gods. Blunderweb says
Yeah.
it's tough to watch subsequent liver shots happen after it's clear the guy is going down. So, like you said,
Should have hit the
Zucchini
floor.
kept exiting the same way over and over and over again. When Morgan was in the southpaw stance, and Zucchini would circle towards that power side. And one thing to do if you're struggling to cut somebody off, one of the best things you can do is kick, right? Because it's just so much longer.
Yep.
So he catches him with that liver kick, the left liver kick. And he's like, "Ooh, that one!" You could tell it hurt him because he started circling aggressive, right? He was on his bike, and then he was like, "All right, cool. I'm just gonna follow you again." And then whoop out! Here's another liver kick, and it was like, "Ooh, there's another one." And then he kind of he trapped him there. He cut him off after that one, and then he throws that nasty front kick right up the middle, and he lands that on the liver. It's perfect. It's very precise with the front kick, and then it's like, oh my god! And then he's going down, and then he catches him with this other body kick as he's going down. Just brutal. Just
Absolutely brutal. Yeah.
And you could see him on the ground screaming in the background as Morgan's celebrating the finish.
Yep.
Just so brutal.
What was also really bad in this fight for the commentary team is like, Michael, do you do any research? Did you miss the entire article about how John Jones does not train at fucking Greg Jackson's camp anymore?
Yeah.
Like, he got kicked out for domestic violence. Do you pay attention?
Are you following the sport you're paid to talk about?
As Dominic Cruz would say, did you do your research?
Yeah. Or did you pay someone to do it?
Exactly.
Oh, man. Dominic Cruz, mastermind in fighting and absolute whack job and everything else.
Did you see that video of him getting buggy choked twice in a row?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he was doing training with this guy. It might have been like a setup video where they were like training a certain thing, but it looked like they were going live rounds, and the guy hits him with the buggy choke, and they restart and immediately gets him in the exact same thing.
That's hilarious. Dominic Cruz isn't retired, right? That dude needs to retire.
Technically, no. I think he's still in the USADA pool, still on contract.
Yeah, and shout out Paul Felder's back in the USADA pool as of a couple days ago.
Yeah. Since he watched that main event.
Yeah, which I'm excited for. But also, I realize he's also above 40, I believe, or maybe he's 39.
Hopefully this time he does more than just fucking triathlons.
Yeah, or how about we just do something like, get him in there with someone like Jim Miller or something like that. Like, I don't want to see him fight some like
that'd be a good one. Do him and Jim for like UFC 300. That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be sick. Get Lozon in there maybe against. I don't know. Miller versus Lozon at 300 would be cool.
It'd be like another one of those. What was it? Ed Herman and oh my god, I forget his name. Bald guy.
Yeah, what was
who I'm talking about.
But that was great. That was a great. God, who
situation.
Was that? It was the guy who fought Zach Cummings.
Yes.
That was a great one. Nate versus Tony was kind of good, but Tony probably should have retired off that one too, but he didn't. Monster Tony says, "I'll take uninformed Bisping over Cruz any day." HLB Comer says, "Speaking of bad decisions, have you heard Felder wants to come back?" Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Bad decisions. And Monster Tony comes in with Zach Cummings. Monster Tony's on it, huh? We can move on. We're going to start skipping fights. We're at 50 minutes here. We're going to go to Ange Losa versus Reese McKee. Fun fight. I like Ange. He's very talented, you could tell. Dude hits like a truck. It's one of those weird fights like where their builds are just so different. And you're like, who's going to be able to use this to their advantage? And Losa did. Losa totally did.
It's crazy how like tall fighters just have the worst time using their distinct advantage in some of these fights.
Some of them do really well. I think Dan Hooker uses his length well. John Jones obviously uses his length really well. But then there's guys like Stephen Struve.
Stefan Struve, Volkov.
Stefan Struve couldn't jab, and it's like, hey man,
Yeah.
you're 6'11". You should learn to jab.
Like maybe once.
Yeah, but yeah, the fight starts and immediately Losa closes the distance, lands the big overhand, and then really just beats the brakes off of him. I think it was the second round where it was still kind of competitive, but he was landing the bigger shots. And then in that second round, he hit him with that Dragon Ball Z combo. You can see the combo multiplier just skyrocketing in the top corner.
Yeah, that was pretty great.
And Reese McKee, man, just taking it all, just insane. Yeah. And then
shout out to the ref for letting that continue. That was pretty awesome. Thank you for that, bud.
Yeah, Just Bleed God's also appeased. But yeah, and then in the third round, 50 seconds left. I don't even know what happened. I tried to go back and
I watched it back. I couldn't see it. I could not see it.
So they're almost in this position where McKee's up against the fence, and Losa comes in, and it seems like he missed, and then all of a sudden McKee just throws him on the ground, and he's like out of it. It reminded me of Gane versus Lesnar, where Lesnar like fell down and like kind of spun over himself, and you know, because he didn't have his feet underneath him, and I have no idea what landed. I couldn't find it.
And wasn't that also where he got cut too, like right over the eye?
Losa?
Yeah.
No, I think the cut came later with a step and elbow from McKee. Because this is where he's already hurt, and the cut's not necessarily there. But yeah, he throws him down. He gets back up, and then it's McKee just tagging him with punches as Losa's kind of just like jogging away and getting hit from behind. It's like, this is bizarre.
He was so out of it that afterwards, during the interview with Michael, he was asked a question about how hurt he was in the third, and he started talking about the second. I was like, that's not the question I asked, sir. Can you fucking answer?
Yeah. Dude did not have his wits about him. And then McKee lands a nice step-in knee, which that's the type of stuff you use if you're a tall fighter, a lanky fighter. I mean, he really tagged him a few times, and he just didn't quite have the pop anymore, I don't think, because he was clearly concussed at that point, and his body wasn't working the way it was supposed to. But
no energy, no gas in the tank.
Yeah, and I think this is still a good showing from Losa. He's very skilled, and these are the types of fights that you gain a lot of experience from.
Just sucks that this has happened to him essentially twice now, where like he comes in and first fight in the UFC is, who's this Hamzat Chimaev guy? Don't know. And now he comes in here and just gets absolutely fucking just hammered or just like hit with stones like in the face over and over. Like it kind of sucks, man. But like you said, he'll learn from it. Yeah, he'll learn from it hopefully and come back a little bit better.
I was talking about Losa. This is a good learning fight from Losa. McKee, I don't know, man. I don't know what the future holds for McKee. I know he got cut. He went to Cage Warriors, became a champ over there. Now he's back. He got beat up pretty bad here. I don't know. Like you said, he needs to use his physical attributes better if he's going to have success in the UFC. But Losa, I think, is very promising. Despite getting caught and almost getting finished there in the third round, these are the types of fights you have that are good to have early in your career. I think that so you know who you are. Yeah. Blunderbub says, I almost want to cry, but I'm going to keep it gangster. You good, my man? Monster Tony says, Reese got that dog in him. Keep him for now. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, I don't know what the future holds for him in the UFC, but I like him. So we'll skip.
Just too bad that dog's a poodle.
Yeah, we'll skip the next bathroom break fight for HLB Comer, and we'll go to Basharat versus Rodriguez. Probably not much to cover in this fight, but
pretty straightforward.
Basharat calls Rodriguez a weight bully, which, cool. He's missed weight twice in his last two fights. Or his last fight, his most recent fight got canceled because he missed weight, which sucks. I don't necessarily like the term weight bully, if I'm being honest, because it seems like that's becoming way more common now. People hate on fighters for being weight bullies, and it's like, hey man, everybody's cutting weight. Like if they can make you're a weight bully, in my opinion, if you miss weight consistently. Yeah. But there's a lot of guys
who still get the fights and win. That's what I consider a weight bully. If you're making the weight, then who gives a shit? You made the weight. Like, Like,
people are like,
come
he's
on.
way bigger than them in the cage. And it's like, well, then maybe they should be fighting at a weight class below, or they should change
Gilbert
the way
Burns
weight
fought at
cuts work.
155. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yep. So yeah, I think weight bully thing, unless you're missing weight and winning the fights after, I think it's a stupid thing. But regardless, Basharat calls him weight bully, which it is kind of warranted in this situation. And he was like, yeah, all I have to do is wait until he gasses, because he can't handle the weight cuts. And then he didn't wait until he gassed, and instead just took him down, beat the shit out of him, and then choked him out.
Yep. Pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward. I really like this new thing with these chokes like this, arm triangles, darts chokes, things like that, where you get into side control, and you just batter with hammer fists and elbows, because it makes you fight back, and then as soon as you fight back, the choke's there. And we've seen it a few times now. Who was the last one? Was it Duplessis versus Robert Whittaker, where he didn't get the choke to win, but he set up this Darce where he's just elbow, Darce, and then you fight the Darce, he lets go of the Darce, elbow, goes for the Darce again, and you're like, ooh, that is nasty, man. That is nasty.
And that's using an attempt to like not for just the idea of like, oh, I'm going to get this submission, but like sort of using it as a setup, like you said, like being able to make them move in the position you want just by simply going for something.
Yeah, and that's what we see a lot too, with people on their back going for leg locks. There's a lot of guys who will go for the leg lock just to make them defend the leg lock, and then they can get up because of them having to address the leg lock. But yeah, Basharat looked really good in this fight. I think he's very talented. He's very like well-rounded. He's very like, there's some guys who you see him and they're like, ooh, he's an elite this. He's an elite at this. Basharat, I don't know if he's necessarily elite at anything, but he's a very good mixed martial artist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he put, like he was talking about in his interview, like his fight IQ is very high. Like seeing an opportunity present itself, regardless of like how, like, oh, I didn't set that up, so I'm not going to go for it. I'm going to be worried about something. Maybe he's doing something. Like, no, I mean, if an opportunity presents itself in front of you, you'd be stupid and not take the opportunity.
Yeah, there's a fine line of being disciplined for your game plan and sticking to it, and not being able to adapt. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to just like be scatterbrained where you force things that you think are an opening. Like in those situations, you want to stick to your game plan. But then in other situations, your game plan might cost you the fight if you're not ditching it to take the opportunities that are presented. Blunderbuff says elite leg
Rose Namajunas. Rose Namajunas.
yeah, exactly.
Sorry.
Maybe kick when your hand's broken. But I don't blame her for that. I blame Pat Barry.
Or stop waiting for the last 2 rounds in your Carla fight.
Yeah, that was bad. At least she takes credit or takes responsibility for that now. Did you see that?
No, I did not.
In the lead up to this fight, she was talking about that fight. She's like, yeah, I understand why people were upset at me. And at the time, like, I was pissed and like didn't want to take responsibility, but like, I totally understand it now. And it's like, well, look at that. I like it.
Growth.
But that's pretty much it for the card. We had a lot of cancellations for this card. So we could move into moment of silence. We had, let's see. I think we're doing moment of silence first, right? Let's see if we have these pictures up.
There we are.
So, like I said, Volkan Ozdemir was originally supposed to fight Mirzakhanov. Mirzakhanov had to withdraw, and that's why Gushkov took over. Got knocked out. Gomes was originally supposed to fight Lucas Almeida. Almeida got injured, and I think was it Gamori that he ended up fighting? Yeah, Gamori takes the fight because he was supposed to fight the Irish dude. And then they both got rebooked, so he fought Gomes, got kicked in the nuts. They said he got kicked in the body. Hawk Pross versus Sam Patterson was probably the best fight on here that got canceled. Would have been cool to see Hawk Pross again. I like the guy. That's kind of all that matters for the canceled fights.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't. We didn't miss out on too much other than missing this nut shot. That would probably be the only other thing on this list I would have liked to see come to fruition if it meant we didn't have to see that fight, because regardless of just the nut shot, that fight was pretty snooze fest.
Yeah, and the other thing we lost, if we go a step further, just to piss off all the UFC shields, is we probably should have had Francis on this card, but the UFC fucked that up. So we can go into performance bonuses. Ciryl Gane, the guy that they're shoehorning in as the face of France MMA, like Francis just died. Ciryl Gane got a performance bonus. Let's see.
Because he
Charrier
definitely
got
needed it.
yeah, he definitely Morgan got one, which he deserves for those body kicks. That was
Yeah.
fucking awesome. And then Benoit Saint-Denis versus Thiago Moises both got a bonus for fight of the night, and I like it because they deserve that. That was a good call. Blunderbub says, Will, 1 minute, Super Leg versus Rod Tang, early thoughts. I think it probably doesn't happen. I don't know if that fight ever comes to fruition. If it does, I think Super Leg is way too
Didn't they
good on
announce
the
it?
outside. They've announced it like 3 times, though. He's pulled out like
Okay.
3 times from that fight.
I gotcha.
But I am very excited for it if it does happen. But I do think Super Leg is too much for Rod Tang.
Jaded Will over here. He's been affected by Khabib and Tony too much.
Yeah, I do really like Rod Tang, obviously, but I just think Rod Tang, the level of competition lately isn't the same as what Superlek has been facing, and Superlek has looked so goddamn good against elite guys. And his outside game is a lot better than Rod Tang's. Rod Tang's really going to have to get past him and get up close, and I just don't know if you can do that to Superlek. I just don't know. But if anybody can, it's probably Rod Tang. So obviously it's a very compelling fight. That's why they keep trying to make it, But that's my early thoughts. That might change when we get closer. Let's see. Next week we got UFC Fight Night a million. It's an Apex card. I don't even know. No, it's Australia, right? Is it Australia for next week?
Is it?
I think it's.
I mean, they love doing Apex. I wouldn't be surprised.
They love that Apex.
Safe money would not be to put it not on Apex. So
I believe it's 293. Yeah, it is. Okay, UFC 293 Australia, the one that they were really hoping for Pereira to starch. What's his name? Why can't I think of who he fought at light heavyweight?
wow.
Who was it? Petr Yan. No, not Petr Yan. Jan Blachowicz. How are we gonna have two? You want
to see a murder? You want to see somebody die?
It was Yan Xiaonan.
Oh God.
But yeah, they were banking on him to finish Blachowicz early, so they can do a title fight with him versus Yizri in Australia. That obviously didn't happen. So they were like, I guess we'll make Adesanya versus Sean Strickland. So we'll go ahead and see Sean Strickland walk his way into a knockout like he did against Alex Pereira.
How much you think they pay him to go in as iCarly?
I know. Everyone's talking about
begging him. They're begging him. They're like, just please keep your hands at your chest.
Try that Philly shell again against the kicker. Co-main event, we got Tai Tuivasa versus Volkov. That's a fun fight. We got my boy and your boy Manel Kopp versus Felipe Dos Santos.
Let's go.
I cannot believe the bad luck that Kopp has had. He's supposed to be fighting Figueiredo. Like,
it's crazy.
Like the guys they're booking him against, and then they fall through. Kai France.
Every time.
Like, he's supposed to be getting those fights that are about to put him in the top 5, and now he's fighting Felipe Dos Santos, which most people probably never even heard of. So it sucks for Manel Kopp, but hopefully he gets a nice showcase fight to catapult him regardless.
The MMA gods are looking down on your prediction. They're like, no, Will. No. Next year. Man. Next year.
God, every year I predict this guy's going to be champ by the end of the year, and then they keep canceling his fights. It sucks.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, he debuted in the top 5. Like, what do we do? How is
so
he not?
Crazy. And now didn't he fight Pantoja and got a loss to Pantoja, and now he's a champion? It's like, God.
Well, the Pantoja fight was his debut, I believe. It was a close fight. I had Pantoja winning. The big one was the Mateus Nicolau. That was the one that he got robbed really bad. And that one knocked him out of the top 5. And it's like, hey, what are we doing? Like, regardless. Justin Tafa versus Austin Lane. Not a very high level fight. I think Tafa probably knocks him out in the first round. But it'll be fun to see Tafa.
It'd be more entertaining if they gave him Trevor Whitman's gloves so we didn't have to deal with that bullshit again.
Yeah, seriously. Tuck your fingers. We got Tyson Pedro is back against Anton. I'm just not even gonna try it. I'm gonna blame it on my eyesight. I can't really see it from the screen here. Carlos Olberg is on here versus Don Young. That's a banger. That is such a banger. Let's see what else. Malarkey versus McDessie is gonna be fun.
I love Malarkey.
Back on here. Yeah, Malarkey's sick. We got Blood Diamond back in here. The meme fighter. Who I'm still high on. He's very high level kickboxing that hasn't really translated. and we got Shane Young. This is a decent card. It's
Yeah.
a decent card.
The
portion
Australian fans will be pretty excited for it.
Yeah, it was funny is they sold out of this before they even had a main event booked, which is hilarious. Monster Tony says, I'm doing a shoey if Ty wins. Film it. We have a video somewhere when we first started this podcast of Ramiro doing one after a Ty win. So we can get some people doing shoeys.
Absolutely disgusting.
Card. Yeah. What do you got going on in November, Toasty?
Oh, it's funny you should ask. A1 actually finally announced the card they're putting me on. They did. They ran their card last night and they did a little promotional video through me and my teammate on there. But it looks like I'll be making my pro debut in Sacramento again. A1 Combat November 18th.
Let's go. November 18th. I'm gonna try really hard to make it there. That'd be so sick. Here's the promo. Come on. Shout out A1.
Philly brand's hella good.
Damn, that's a monster show.
And here comes my boy Allen after this. Boom! What a knockout. And here's your man.
There's your boy. Yeah, she was so hyped, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna try to make it. The Hard Rock. Shout out Uriah Faber. Shout out Jim Cooley. Come on.
Yeah, that whole crew there is so awesome. They're like some of the nicest people. Corey McKenna, who did the commentary, she was at the last fight in Napa I worked because I started working for Camo to do some of their events as well. So I was like in the back there. Her and her husband were fucking awesome the whole time back there. Super nice people. Like everyone you meet from A1 are fucking top notch people.
That's sick. Blunderbub says ways to watch. I believe it's on Fight Pass, right?
Yeah, it'll be on Fight Pass, or if they put me on the prelims, then prelims will be streamed for free on their YouTube channel.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, dude. Hype. Alrighty. I think that's pretty much it for this week. Let's see. Like I said, we'll cover UFC Australia 293 next week.
Make sure all your casuals are watching on Friday for Friday night or Friday morning fights. One championship.
Friday fights. So sick on YouTube.
Every time.
I wish we could cover it more on the show, but we got full-time jobs. Maybe if we start making money off this and I can quit my job, but it's gonna be.
I got four jobs now. I work for Camo. I just got hired as the wrestling coach for Brownell. I have the pro fighting, and now I'm still installing TV. So it's like, where do I find time for any of this shit?
It's crazy, dude. But you find time last second to hop on the show to cover for Ramiro, cover for myself. So we appreciate it. Everybody else, we appreciate you, Monster Tony, Blunderbub, HLB Comer. Monster Tony says I watch the one at work Friday mornings. Maybe I do too. Who knows? But thanks everybody for showing up all the time. Don't forget we got merch now. It's in the description. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that bullshit. Goes a long way. We're close to 7,000 subscribers. If you want to follow us outside of YouTube, it's at Story of the Fight on pretty much everything. And then we got Andrew. You got on what? You got on Instagram?
Instagram, Facebook. Those are pretty much the two main spots to find me.
Hell yeah. Thank you, everybody. Don't forget, this podcast is produced by Richard Bustos. All right. Thanks, everybody, for another week of Story of the Fight.